Hello, everyone, and welcome to Last Best Hope for Conversation, a JKL Media podcast. We are talking Babylon 5 this morning, afternoon, evening, depending on when you are listening. I am Jesse Jackson, and joining me as always is Lou
Hello, everyone.
and Karen.
Hello.
And we are continuing Season 5, the other season. The Springsteen, when he fired the E Street Band, he toured and they called it the other band.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
We
is a
are,
different show, essentially, right?
yes, Season 5, Episode 12, The Ragged Edge.
So we're at the halfway point, right? For season
We,
5.
yes, we
Or
are.
are we past it?
And it is, there are no more telepaths. So
Oh,
discussion
on
of
board, you
this,
mean?
yeah, on board, yes.
How about Lita?
Lita's there, but
Okay.
the Byron storyline
Right.
and the telepath colony is over. So Lou, what'd you think of this one? Quick thoughts.
This was a definite big tick up for me. We're back to the characters that we care about, and the focus of the story was on them. And of course, the focus on Garibaldi's drinking is always going to be of interest, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to play out. Even with Jakar returning to the more mystical, prophetical aspects of his character is enjoyable to see as well.
Okay. And Karen?
I agree. There's not much to hate about this episode, to be fair. I love Jakar. I love the Garibaldi stuff. Even what's going on with Londo, because we get a little more insight into what's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's a really good episode.
Good. One of the things I noticed when I was reading the script book that JMS said that it really bothered him that every time he had to write Lockley's name in a script, it reminded him that he'd lost Claudia Christensen, that he was having to change the role. And so when he didn't include her in a script, it felt like he was working on, and this is my words, not his Babylon 5, not the new version of Babylon 5 that he was
Right.
having to do. I do think that I really liked both storylines. I think they're A1 and A2 versus AB. I think they both have some really interesting.
A C, but it's a very small C.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with Garibaldi. All right. They're still investigating these attacks, and they're not raiders, but they're going, and Garibaldi ends up sleeping late and missing a meeting. And we know it's because he's drinking. No one else knows that. And he says that he's going to go investigate this. And so, Karen, do you believe the reasons he's saying that he's going solo? Or do you think he's choosing not to have Stephen go with him because he's worried Stephen might find out that he's drinking?
Yes. I think it's both of those reasons.
Okay.
From his meeting with this friend, I can see where he's not trusting of outsiders. So I don't think Franklin would have been really welcome. I don't know that Garibaldi would have gotten the information he got with Franklin there. But also, he knows probably that this used to be his drinking buddy.
Yeah.
Because that was expected, that the friend was bringing in booze.
Yeah.
I think also that would have been a conversation that would have started between the two of them.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's both of those things, definitely. And with Garibaldi, I don't remember exactly the saying, but if he has any luck at all, it's bad. Yeah. Isn't that his whole deal? And that's what's going on with him this season.
Yeah. All right. Lou, how about you? Same question.
I think that Franklin called him out on it, even though he didn't know, when he said that he was making all these logical, rational explanations for why he didn't want him to come with him. But underneath it, it was just to hide his alcoholism. So I definitely think that that was the bigger reason why. It was interesting because when they had the discussion in the council chambers with Garibaldi, Sheridan, Berlin, and Chakar, and then Londo walked in late and recognized the button. When
Yeah.
they had the scene after that, when he says, "I don't know if we can trust him," I thought at first, are they talking about Garibaldi? But then they pulled back and he was there, and I said, okay, so now they're talking about Londo. And Garibaldi says, "I was asleep."
And
Yeah.
he's really defensive about it too.
Yeah. So how many times is
Yeah.
that excuse going to work? Because now the security guard guy, what's his name?
Yeah, Zach. Yeah.
He saw Garibaldi wake up and look, said that you look like crap. All these little breadcrumbs are being laid. I I guess my only hope is that they're not going to play this out too long. People not knowing about his drinking, and that I hope it comes to a head sooner than later, because it would just become too much of a drag on the plot if they kept on hiding his alcoholism from everybody. How it's going to become revealed is what I'm very interested in.
Yeah, let's keep expanding that. Michael's good at his job, but he's not good right now. He is definitely not a functioning alcoholic, right? This
Mhm.
is, and watching this story reminded me, I was really young, but I remember people were at my mom and dad's house and they had brought alcohol over. And someone asked my dad, "Why don't you have a drink?" And he said, "Because I would not stop drinking till that bottle's gone."
Hmm.
And my dad's friend said, "That makes you an alcoholic then." And my dad shrugged. And I was young, so I don't remember why that stuck with me,
Hmm.
but it did. And I do think that's the problem is Garibaldi is my wife often says that not in drinking, but in things she is either 1 or 100.
Yeah, yeah.
Just let everything go to hell in a handbasket in the house, or oh my God, why did you let that crumb fall, Jesse? Pick it up.
Yeah.
There is no moderation. Lou, as the official top Garibaldi cheerleader, thoughts on this? And it is great that he's getting, I think, a really meaty storyline. And when you guys were talking about this, I knew this was coming
Right.
and I was biting my tongue. Okay, yeah, don't say anything, don't spoil it. Thoughts on how he's doing the job? Anything you want to go about this with his current struggles?
Yeah, it's interesting because I played that storyline through my head with the premise that what if he hadn't been drinking? Would anything really have changed? Because the fact that his buddy got killed outside the corridor or outside his quarters, I don't think that would have changed. What would he have been doing during that time that instead of sleeping it off, he maybe would have been sleeping normally? I don't know because it wasn't really laid out. The time passage wasn't laid out too clearly there, but I, I don't think that there's anything that would have happened differently. I think his friend still would have been killed. I don't know because he didn't really have any time to plan an alternate plan. Like he tried to get to that guy before the Drazi did. In a way, it's interesting because at some point it definitely will impact his performance. In this case, did it impact his performance? You could say, yeah, it did, but I don't think the outcome would have been different. He went in there. I just think the initial plan was wrong. I don't think he should have gone in on his own. When you're going to another planet, you have to be a lot more. He should have gone. I don't know if he used an alter ego or a fake ID or whatever, but it just seemed like the way they went about the whole thing was it should have been much more covert operate. Like he shouldn't have checked into a hotel or anything. He should have just gone in there and hid somewhere. Like his friend should have taken him to a safe house or something like that. I just don't think the way they set it up was the best plan. So was that because of alcoholism or or drinking or whatever. I don't know. So it's at this point, it's still an interesting thing, and it's definitely affecting his ability to perform his job to a schedule. But that covert mission, while it wasn't the best thing that he's done, I think a lot of that situation was out of his hands, whether he was drinking or not. So it's a interesting dilemma so far.
Karen?
I agree. I think his friend would have been killed. I do think there was a chance he might have been killed because he might have heard them out in the corridor.
Maybe
He
he would
wouldn't
have
have been
fought
passed
better.
out, but I still do think that the outcome would have been the same. I agree 100%. I think the way that they're going to find out about him, and this is just speculation,
Yeah.
is that he is being sloppy with it, sleeping in. Zach called him out already. He's very defensive about it. Why didn't you hear it? And he's like, I was sleeping okay. He jumped really quickly to being bristly about it. So I think there are tells that he has, and they're pretty obvious tells. And I think that's how these people aren't stupid. So unless they portray them as stupid, I think that they'd be able to suss that out. I like that they gave him this storyline very much because it's something that was set up early on in the show.
Yes.
And it's nice to see that they're not just manufacturing something new.
Yeah.
For this season.
Yes.
I also like the Jakar storyline, so I'm hoping we'll get to that soon. And then
absolutely,
Franklin leaving the station, I think, is something that is going to maybe slow down them finding out, because I think Franklin would know.
Yeah.
Right? And Franklin's already suspicious.
So I think that's well said, is that we are back on part of the reason JMS's plan, right? He had said, and one of the things he talked about in this script book is that when they came back they had a big Christmas party. And he wanted to tell, because everyone was talking about, okay, you've always said it's a 5-year arc. It's year 5, but oh, I hear we're going to do Crusade. You sure you don't want to do year 6? Because there's the crew and the cast, and they're like, this is a job for them. Joe said he wanted to pull everyone aside and go, yes, this series ends at this year. That was my vision. That's what I wanted. There's not going to be a 6th season. Crusade's going to be a totally different animal, but I need you guys to know this. The other 2 producers said, no, you can't do that, because it's going to affect their performances, going to affect their work, because they know it's like telling someone you're going to get laid off 6 months before the job. They just aren't going to do it. And he said, yeah, they're professionals. I think they're going to do fine. So he didn't. And there was disappointment. And he said if he had to do it over again, he would told everyone.
Yeah.
That just upfront, knowing what's going on.
There is that kind of senioritis thing, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're a senior in high school and it gets close to the end, you just stop trying.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think what makes this storyline with Garibaldi interesting, and the investigating this Drazi, was the MacGuffin, because it's mostly seeing how he originally was going to tell his friend no, he couldn't drink, and then he's, oh, what the hell. And it is his personality is he can't do things halfway, right? And
he's had hard times recently.
Yes.
He was brainwashed and used as a weapon. So he's had serious trauma, and that is definitely something that makes people relapse.
For sure.
And you wonder if he originally tried to drink because of the mind block? Or was
Right.
that just the excuse because I'm rewatching West Wing and the Leo McGarity character says, everything makes me want to drink.
Right.
You
One
know,
might say that was an easy jump for him because he has an
yeah.
addiction to it. He knows what it can do.
And
And he might have thought right away, this will dull my senses.
yeah.
I think
And
that was part of it, but I also think he was fooling himself.
I wondered,
Right.
but is this a convenient excuse because he wants to drink, right?
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how smart you are to fool yourself.
Yes.
We'll talk ourselves into anything.
Yeah, we will.
I mean, anything as long as it benefits us.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was a huge jump for him.
Yeah.
Where he is in his life, it was
Yeah.
very easy for him to take that leap.
I agree. I am a little bit the idea that just because it's the button doesn't necessarily mean that it is connected to Centauri Prime. I think that's a little bit of a leap, though I think that is the story they want us to tell and they're trying to tell. Any thoughts on that before we move to Jakar?
Yeah, I'm it seems to be too obvious of a plant, but it's not a plant, but
Yeah.
just the implications of it are just the Centauri are, we know that this third party, whoever they are, is manipulating the emperor. Why, if they're doing that, why would they want they're probably using other Centauris are doing what they think is work for the Centauris instead of this unknown party. Yeah, it could be the Centauri that are doing the work, but they're just the mechanism. They're not the actual brains behind the operation. So it's I think it's a little bit of a feint, but that's what I think about that.
Yeah, I assume that they're being used as tools by the whatever they are,
The other
leeches,
people. Yeah. Hmm.
whether they're wearing a uniform or not. Hey, you're going out to do this. They're just using whoever is
Yeah.
convenient.
All right. So, Karen, let's talk about Jakar and Talon and this whole storyline. And then I want to hear your thoughts because Joe mentions, as I'm reading the introduction, that he is loving watching Londo and Jakar interacting together. He enjoys writing it, he loves it. So I want to hear your thoughts on it, Lou, in a minute,
Mhm.
because I know this is one of the things that you haven't been able to get past. But so I want to hear your thoughts. But Karen, you mentioned how you were excited to talk about this. He's going to be so happy. Early in you guys talked about, I feel like Jakar might be on this spiritual journey, and now you get a full-fledged, he is Gandhi.
Yeah.
He is Martin Luther King
Yep.
Jr. I mean, he is this full-fledged, and he doesn't want it, doesn't think it. So give me your thoughts on this and the whole they stole his book, they printed it, someone made a copy, and it is that you can't keep a secret, right? Two people can
Right.
keep a secret if one of them's dead. So yeah, tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I love how he was really upset. And the fact that they jumped on it, he was gone a month, right?
Yeah.
And they knew that he had this assignment. I'm assuming it wasn't a secret that
Hmm.
he was helping Londo.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's they were so enthralled by him that they wanted to see what was going on with him. So they
Yeah.
broke into his quarters and stole the Book of Jakar. I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like we have another storyline, and I'm not comparing it one on one, but we have another storyline with a man and followers, like we did with Byron, right?
Yes.
It failed with Byron. I think it's working with Jakar. And the reason
Yes.
it's working with him is because he is resisting it,
Yes.
and his story is true
Yeah.
because he's writing the bad and the good that he's gone through.
Hmm.
And they're telling us that story by saying we can't trust the Centauri early in the book. And I like how he's drawing that parallel to fervent Christians that want to take the Bible as everything, we have to follow it 100%. And they can find a justification for terrible behavior sometimes because there are parallels in the Bible. And I think of it as that the Bible is a work of fiction, essentially.
I had a guest on Set Lusting Bruce that who is a Christian leader, but talked about how the Bible was written by men and how it changed over the time, and that it she read this as it is a way for us to find ourselves through
Right.
this
It's a
interpretation.
guide. And I feel like he feels like that as well, that
Yeah,
he thinks, although it's a diary of what a journal of what happened to
yeah,
him, it's also just a guide
yeah,
on his thoughts and how you might want to live your life.
yeah.
And I do love how they laid it out in the end with that just zealot at
Hmm.
the end of the episode. He wanted to argue with Jakar about his own thoughts
Yes.
because it was written down.
Yeah, every word in the book of Jakar is holy,
Right.
and
Says it right to Jakar's face.
he's going, uh,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So,
He's telling the guy,
yeah.
that's not true. Listen to me, not the book.
Hmm.
And the guy is not having it. And I love how they
Yeah.
resolve that situation, right?
So, Lou, I wanted your thoughts. Does any of this help that for you to understand a little bit more how Jakar has moved past this being best friends with Hitler?
No. Um,
Okay.
it continued to exasperate
Hmm.
the situation for me because if he's being looked upon as this holy leader by all the other Narn, how are the Narn reconciling the fact that he's the bodyguard of the enemy of their people? I don't think there's anything that the show is going to do that's going to change my mind about just the basic dynamics of their relationship.
Yeah.
My first impressions of the storyline was if this book was so important to you, Jakar, why did you just leave it out in the open
Fair point.
in your quarters
With you.
or put it in
Yes.
a safe or something? And then I thought they printed 500, 6,000 copies. Who did they hand it out for free or were they charging for it? And if they did, who got all the money? And is Jakar going to see any of
Hmm. Yeah.
that? So there's like these tangential thoughts that I'm having about this
Yeah.
storyline. I struggle on the one hand because a lot of these Narns know Jakar before he wrote the book. So now that he's written the book, all of a sudden he's this holy person. So that's an interesting way that people project their desires upon someone to elevate them to a certain cult status like that.
Yeah.
And maybe getting a little bit political here, you could argue that the latest
Yeah.
election results in the States, a lot of people are pinning their hopes on somebody that I don't think can deliver what they think they're going to get from him. It's all about projection, really. It's less about the person and more about the people's dreams and fears and hopes.
Yeah.
Like that Karen pointed out, like that with that zealot is basically arguing with the author of the book about what the book means. I think is a perfect example of how ideas become more than the elevated to a status that's different than what they were originally intended for. So it's a lot about projection that we've got all
Yeah.
these grievances and this piece of work, this text is crystallizing what our issues are with the world at large. And I think that is a very interesting dynamic. And I'm going to be very curious to see if it's all going to go to Jakar's head or not. And is he going to change? Because if people keep telling you that you're a big shit, dude, then it's hard not to become saying, yeah, I'm big shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that will
it's
be
hard to
interesting to
convince
see.
yourself that's not the case. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I it is going to be interesting, I think, to see because Jakar doesn't want this, right? I do agree it's a good why did he leave the book there? But for it there, this was a private and this is he's uncomfortable. But I love the Talon discussion about this is your weapon.
Yeah, that was very
This
good.
this is your voice. It is. And I do feel that Jakar may take this reluctant.
He should,
That
Yeah,
would be his
but
character.
we're all flawed beings.
So, can I ask you a question?
sure.
They wanted him to be what, emperor, president, whatever.
Yes.
Is all this kind of coming from them being curious why he turned that down?
Could be. I don't remember that directly addressed in the series, but I think this is, and I do think we are, as a people, we go both ways. I can't trust someone who wants power too much, but
Mhm.
I also can't trust someone who doesn't want any power at all. You can't win. And I do feel that because the way the Narn had been occupied and under so much extreme, that I do feel it is the idea of I need to be militant. And this idea, I think it goes to Gandhi, the idea that no, we need to find a way to peaceful do this is against their very nature.
Yeah,
So,
even in Gandhi's case, this was a protest against the government, right?
yeah,
With Jakar, they know that he was instrumental
yeah,
in ending the conflict between the Centauri and the Narn people.
yeah,
So them wanting to elevate him and him turning it down, I think was like, we have to elevate him at some point. We have to
yeah,
give him credit. And so they jumped on this. I'm reading into it.
yeah,
I do think that might be an element of why they went there. And where is he? Why is he not with us? Why is he not ruling us? And so that's why they wanted to try and figure it out. And they leapt on
yeah,
this book as, oh, he doesn't want to lead, but he wants to lead.
yes, it does. The Any thoughts, Karen, on the discussion? Lou talked a little bit about it, and you guys can expand. Talon talking about the callback to when he talked about his sword,
Yep.
right? And you carry with your words. I thought that was really well done of JMS to bring the same character back,
Yeah.
the actor back, and he does it so well that you have a duty to share your voice,
Right.
whether you want it or not.
We already know that they have a relationship, which is good. It starts us off on a point
Yeah,
of understanding.
yeah,
And I just love that his name is spelled Talon and he's a soldier. I love that.
Mhm.
yeah.
Um,
JMS said that he was not very clever. Yeah,
I
yeah,
like it because it fits with their naming
yes, it does.
convention.
Yeah,
Uh, but that line that he has, that this is my weapon, and he's holding his sword against him.
yes,
And that is very symbolic and almost a very religious person would hold the book up.
yeah,
This is my weapon, to hold the book up against
yeah,
their chest. And
yeah,
so I love that, convincing Jakar to go through with this talk.
yeah,
If it was someone else that we hadn't ever seen before, we might have wondered, why is this person convincing him to do this? But this is someone that he's already had a very close relationship with, and I think that is part of why this is believable, why
hmm
he could have been talked into it.
hmm I am This is one of my favorite storylines, the Jakar journey all together in Babylon 5. When I think of things that I enjoy, I love his story, him reluctant being a spiritual leader of his, not only of his race, but also of the alliance as a whole. The way that Sheridan has, I like the way you write, I like the way you share. So I think that's been really nice. Franklin is leaving. Uh,
Lou.
Karen, what are your,
No, Lou.
Lou, what do you think about that?
I don't know if he's really leaving.
Okay.
I have a feeling that the storyline will call him back to Babylon 5 because maybe he'll find that he's more effective out in the field than sitting in an office back on Earth.
Hmm.
But it is an interesting extension of what he's doing now. From that aspect, I like it going forward. And as Karen mentioned, that might be the device that they're using to draw out Garibaldi's alcoholism and hiding it from everybody. Because without Franklin there, it will be probably harder for anybody else to clue in as to what's going on with Franklin. Yeah, I think it sets up several interesting possibilities for sure. But I just have to comment in general. The show still has this problem where they've got this entire cast, but they just can't seem to get them all together on the same page, interacting with each other. And I think other shows had a common set where the actors would eventually congregate. I'm thinking more like Cheers at the bar. They need a device, a locale to get all the characters together, even if it's just for an epilogue scene or a starting scene in an episode, just to give us the feeling that all these people are interacting with each other. Because right now it all feels disjointed storylines that occasionally cross each other. Some people might like that kind of storytelling, but I just think that overall it would enhance every storyline if there was overlap between the characters while all these things were happening, as opposed to pulling people in and out as things are going on. So that's something that the show hasn't really done it at all that much during the whole entire run, but just because we've gotten 4 seasons of built up uh, storytelling, we've come to accept that with these characters. But I think this recalibration this season with the loss of Susan has brought it back to my mind again, how the show just doesn't seem to be able to bring all the characters together on a consistent basis. From my perspective, I think that has hobbled the show a little bit, but I think other people might think that's not even an issue, and that's actually probably superior storytelling. So pick your poison, but that's where I'm sitting at right now.
Can I jump on your Star
Please.
Trek
Yes.
analogy? You said the bridge, and
Mhm.
I think that's great because they all do stand there, even if there isn't a storyline revolving around them. Worf was there, even if the story didn't
Yeah.
really include him.
Yeah, presence. Yeah,
I would also mention the holodeck
yeah,
as far
Yeah.
as Star Trek goes. Those are places that we saw them congregate. Picard's little conference room attached to his quarters. They met
Yeah.
there a lot. So there are places that they actually manufactured on Star Trek.
even like in the council chambers, they say that like a weekly
Sure,
status meeting for
right,
station status meeting, and then
exactly.
Lockley would come in, and Franklin would come in, and Garibaldi would come in. Just
Right.
the core characters. You wouldn't need Jakar and Londo for those scenes, but it would be good to have them there too. But yeah, just to get the core
Yeah,
cast
Yeah.
together on a regular basis is
agreed.
something the show just has never really done.
And I feel like they might have set up the Zocalo to be that, and they've never really utilized it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Was that going to be their place where everyone met? They do have some places that they could congregate,
yeah.
and it just never really coalesced that way.
Well, I
And I agree
assume
with
it
you.
for
No,
cost reasons that they couldn't afford to have the
sure.
cast.
Yes, I was just going to say that. That is absolutely the reason. When TNT gave them the 5th season, they cut the budget. And so he had to go to every actor and say, you're going to be in less episodes. But what I'll do is I'm going to take your price per episode and raise it so that the next time there's this thing in Hollywood called your quote. And so you can say, this was my going rate. And that's one of the things that JMS said is the reason why Claudia Christian left is she wanted to be paid the same amount for the episode she wasn't in. So, yeah, I do think that if you go through IMDb throughout the year, go through any season, there is credit only, right? So it is and I guess for cost savings, you don't want to show Veer and Lanier having a bar scene, even though we love those. It doesn't really serve the storyline, but it does give you the feeling of we're not seeing these characters we want to see. Yeah, I get it.
Only half the main cast appeared in this one.
My thought when I watched this the first time and I said, oh, Franklin's leaving. Are we about to get a lot of that? Because I know the show ends after this season. Are they going to be doing that a lot with writing off characters?
I thought that too. And he also says, I'm not leaving until the beginning of the end of the year. So that could be a way to say, it was nice to know you, and they all kind of part ways at the end.
And they establish that every season is a calendar year.
I am missing a few storylines.
Okay.
Lanier, what's going on with him? I would like to know. Veer hasn't been in it. By this time, Stephen first didn't have another show, right? His show had been canceled. So there are some things that I am missing from this. I am not missing Lita because I almost don't want to see her come back. And it's not because I don't like the actress or how she's been written, but I don't want telepaths right now. I'm assuming that the next episode has telepaths in it from the title. The core is the mother, the core is the father, right?
That's okay.
Okay, we all have those tics, right?
So, yes.
Yeah. I'm missing a few people, and it's not something I think about as I'm watching an episode, but afterwards I'm like, okay, I'm missing this. Why isn't he here? I like Lanier. Seeing him again would be really nice. I do that we got that little drop in of Zach, because that is definitely someone who would call Garibaldi out, right?
Yes.
Thank you. So, yeah.
I do think it is. I am curious where you guys, as we continue, we're reaching the end. As you said, we're halfway through the season, to go where we're going to write up. What are we going to end up closing? So, yeah, that'll be interesting.
They're in the title sequence, right? And we have seen how they ignore someone from the title sequence in other seasons.
Yes.
I want those characters to show up in it because they're in the title sequence, and not so much that why would they put them in the title sequence? Anyway, I'm sorry. I hate to harp on that.
Ratings. Lou, what do you think?
I'm going to give this 8 laser pointers.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah,
Karen?
I'm going to give it 8 empty bottles.
Nice. I'm going to make it, we're going to do trips. I'm going to do 8 out of 10 uniform buttons.
Nice.
So
I like
very
that
nice.
one.
Yes. The Lurker's Guide has this in 8.57.
Okay.
So we're close to it. I am looking forward to seeing how G'Kar continues. How long is Garibaldi going to have this problem? And a lot of stuff going on. It is, I think, now that the telepaths are gone, I enjoy the second half of the season a lot more, and I'm hoping you guys do the same. All right, we did get some feedback, didn't we, Karen?
We did.
Please.
Hi, Nathan. He apparently had a good time with his feedback this week.
Okay.
He's very upbeat. He says, hey guys, G'Kar is a prophet and Garibaldi is relapsing. Isn't it fun? Always found G'Kar being here, being outraged and exasperated to be amazing. But then again, this is an instance where JMS doesn't miss, and Andreas being a great actor. It's both unexpected and logical. because you never think that a character can just become a center of religious fervor, even though we've already seen it happen to Sheridan too. That's true.
Yeah.
Talon is perfect for foil for the whole situation, which makes the lack of Natoth for all those seasons even more pronounced. When Jakar was missing interaction with Londo, he could disagree with her regarding his actions and politics. Garibaldi relapsing yet again was another surprise for me. By that time, I was used to things being one and done, and he already had a problem with drinking in that one episode of season 1. It's quite understandable after you were made a slave and can't even retaliate because you're still a slave to the programming. And it is as good of a reason for addiction as Franklin's. I just hope that resolution would be better than the vision quest and nonsensical reason for getting back Franklin had. With delight, Nathan. The doctor that he's replacing is the doctor from the premiere, the pilot, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
We're going to go with it that yes, he is.
Okay, you can look it up while I read this if you want. Okay. I don't think you have to.
Okay.
Okay, and Texas says The Ragged Edge, with quotes around it. A title that refers more to JMS's state of mind at this point in the series than what actually happens in it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And what does happen in it? We get a possible break in the shipping attacks case as there may be a survivor, i.e., a witness. Sheridan sends Garibaldi to secure him, unaware that Michael is off the wagon. And we know Michael, he doesn't do things by halves, so when he falls off, he falls hard. Londo and Jakar come back, and Jakar finds he's gone from honored leader to messianic figure, and he hates it. Especially when his devotees start arguing with him over what's in the book. Garibaldi gets back and gives his report, including something that came off a group of robed figures that killed the witness. And Londo inadvertently gives him their lead, but then the others are left with a dilemma. Do they bring him in or keep him out of the loop? Jakar says to keep him out, that if he knows, he will go on a rampage to find the source of the corruption, and those responsible will have him dead before he sets foot on Centauri Prime. So now they have to go forward to track this to the source and keep Londo from finding out in the process. How will this shake out? We'll have to see. We're all in this together. This is the Texas on the Shock signing off until Zaveni in Valen's name.
I would think so. Yes. And yes, it is always, it makes me very happy when I see it too, because I don't always remember either. And I'm like, oh, that was it. Way to go, Texas. Lou, did we get any feedback now that we're back current on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, we got a couple of comments, but they're more directed towards the recent election than anything else.
Okay.
FS Dog said, looking forward to happy reviews. Remember Byron. And then Stuart says, we should all be able to sit down for dinner together. I will limit my response to their political anguish to a single Nia instead of the full 5. At least the election campaign is over and best forgotten, like the Byron saga. And so Trudeau's been in power for quite a while, and his popularity is not that high, to say the least. So we're going to be coming up for an interesting election ourselves.
All right, Lou, if someone wants to reach you and read wonderful video game reviews or hear about writers, how can they?
You can check out our YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews, for our flagship podcast, which is this Babylon 5, Last Best Hope podcast. Also have writer podcasts, a Stephen King podcast, as well as our second flagship show is the JKL Media show, where we do one-off series, books, movies, comics, pop culture, anything that grabs our attention. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma, Sytsma.
And Karen, how about you?
Now you've made me want to write a review of World of Warcraft. Just a little drop in. I'm not addicted because I only play for an hour a day or something, but it's the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft, and they have put a lot of really fun activities And I love that you can get new mounts and new pets and stuff like that. So that's all me. I love that. It's a pretty cool time to jump back in and see what's going on. Maybe I'll write up a post and put it on my blog, which is alliestuff.com for those that are interested. And I am at Aliveria on the various social medias, including Blue Sky.
And I am also on Blue Sky and on Twitter, Jesse Jackson DFW. As we're doing this, I am about halfway through my 30 days of Springsteen. 30 days, a new episode every day in November, each one focusing on a separate Bruce Springsteen album. It's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of great guests joining me, and I hope you would check it out. All right, so we'll be back with a really fun episode next week. Core is mother, Core is father. And in the meantime, everyone be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And scene.